What's up, everybody? We're back with the Off the Bench Thursday Night Football live show, here to answer all your questions, NFL and fantasy related. Brandon Carney alongside Madi Kroll, as always. Maddie, how you feeling about the game tonight before we get to some of these questions?
I'm excited. I'm ready for this week to kick off.
Yeah,
I need some football in my life.
I'm actually, one of the few Thursday Night Football games in a little bit that I've been genuinely excited to watch. I think Brock Purdy, I'm hoping he's healthy because I don't want to see like a half of a Brock Purdy out there.
Yeah,
But
we don't want a half-ass party.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want a half Brock party. I want to see if he's the real deal. I do, because, it's going to bring up so many of these questions about Trey Lance and Jimmy G in the offseason and just what are the 49ers going to be able to accomplish the rest of the way this season. And then the Seahawks, they win this game. They're only one game out of first place with a tiebreaker. The head-to-head tiebreaker would be tied if they beat the Niners in this game. But, still, it makes it a lot more interesting in the division. But let's get to some of these fantasy questions and any NFL questions that you guys may have. Feel free to pop them in the chat. This is meant to be interactive, meant to be a Q&A for Maddie and I. And we got three NFL games on Saturday this week. So, want to get some of these questions in while you still can. Jack C says, who is the most surprising team in the NFL, both good and bad? I know my answer for bad. It's definitely the Denver Broncos for me. I know they had a lot of moving parts this offseason that maybe I was over optimistic on those moving parts, but I don't think anyone foresaw it being this bad. I'd say they're definitely the biggest bad surprise.
That's right.
And then, always. And then biggest good surprise, I'm going to say record-wise, it's got to be the Minnesota Vikings for me. Sitting here at 10-3, coming off a loss to the Lions, I still feel like that's my answer. I would have never predicted 10-3 through 13 games for them.
Yeah, I'm going with Broncos as the bad, but for me, I feel like I have to lay out the Seahawks just because I expected them to be 32nd in everything, and they popped up for a minute, so...
Yeah, me too. Off season, I was like, Drew Lock's going to be the starter probably, and this is going to be a horrible, horrible year. And little did I know, Geno Smith was just cooking up in his lab, turning into like a top 15 quarterback, and none of us had any idea. So
no one knew.
Fantasy question from Brooks Thompson: Bench one, Scary Terry, Diggs, Watson, or Lockett? Man, that's tough. So obviously, you're not benching Diggs. I feel like my answer is probably Christian Watson. As tough as it is, Christian Watson has been very, very touchdown heavy the last few weeks, and not that that's necessarily a bad thing. He can keep scoring. He's really the only guy that they're looking for as far as touchdowns are concerned, but it worries me when you have three other quality options who aren't necessarily touchdown dependent. They're going to probably get you points just off of their receptions, yards. So he's my pick.
I would roll with that, but honestly, I'm saying that from keep your options open each week. This is not a final bench.
No. I'm thinking for this week.
Just for this week, I agree with that.
Yeah, if Christian Watson continues to prove himself, granted for like 4 weeks, I don't know how much more I can ask from the guy, but just those other three guys they all have decent matchups. I expect the Seahawks to have to throw tonight for Lockett in particular. Terry's just coming off of a game where he beat up the Giants pretty bad, and now he gets the Giants again. And then Diggs is Diggs. You're never benching Stephon.
Yeah, it's the only target.
Question from Kai: Brock Purdy or Daniel Jones? I'm not in the fantasy playoffs, but I don't like making decisions. Also, Kyler is out, and he is my quarterback. So Brock Purdy or Daniel Jones? Even with the injury, I'm going Brock Purdy here.
Same. 100%.
Daniel Jones kind of caught lightning in a bottle there for a little bit with the Giants' hot start. He had decent fantasy performances as well, especially adding a lot of value with his legs. But Brock Purdy's very capable of that as well. And I just think him in that 49ers offense, I trust him more than Daniel Jones on a Giants team that's kind of been tumbling a little bit and is facing a Commanders defense that's not terrible. So
I agree with that. I think that we're going to see some rushing yards out of Brock tonight too.
Yeah, absolutely. Question from Jason: which two teams have a better chance to make the playoffs? Which two teams have a better chance to make the playoffs? Steelers, Lions, Giants, Jets, Commanders, Patriots. All right. I guess we're just saying which two teams we expect out of these to have the best playoff chance. I'm going to go Commanders and do I pick one AFC, one NFC? I want to say Commanders and Lions and just go both NFC because I like them both to get in. I'm going to say I'm not picking the Steelers. I'm not picking the Giants. As much as I'd love to pick them, I'm not picking the Patriots either. But Commanders and Lions is my answer. If I have to go AFC, NFC, I'd say Jets, Commanders.
Yeah, I'm actually between the Jets and the Lions right now.
Yeah, I think those are the three
Commanders for
teams.
sure. Yeah.
Those are three teams that I think are trending the right way right now, especially the Jets with Mike White after trending the wrong direction for a little bit. I think Lions are hot at the right time. Commanders are just they've been decent enough all year, and then the Jets, you know, we have that great defense and Mike White, man, he's that guy. He just is.
He is. I'm actually going to go Lions because of the rest of their schedule.
Yeah, that's fair.
Go Lions, Commanders.
And that's why I'm leaving the Patriots out of it, because the Patriots have one of the best defenses among those teams. And, you know, I do think the offense also has kind of nowhere to go but up. You hope they figure something out other than these screen passes. But the schedule the rest of the way, they got Raiders this week. And then it is, I believe, Dolphins, Bengals, Bills. Just not feeling great about that. Even as a Patriots fan, I gotta be honest with myself, unfortunately.
I will say I'm excited to watch the Patriots play just because the NFL has pissed off Judon, and I just want to see how that plays out on the field.
I know. Just rack up like 4 sacks in the next game. Go after him. Question from Not Landy. I'm not going to lie. I asked you guys last week if I should start DJ Moore or Latavius Murray. I started Moore, and he scored 0.6. I needed a 12-point game from Nick Folk to get me into the playoffs. Man, that is so. How did Latavius Murray do last week? I think he was like okay. I know he didn't do anything interesting.
Yeah, and you got to drop us the rest of your roster.
Latavius Murray had 8 carries for 32 yards and 3 receptions for -1 yards. I know for a fact that with our answers, we qualified it by saying these are both rough options. Mm-hmm. It's hard to pick who is going to get just that handful of points. We knew both their floors were very low as well as their ceilings. So look, that's a tough one. I mean, did you get the 12 from Nick Folk? I don't remember what he did last week. I hope you did, but I would say sorry. But
he said it happened though.
Oh, it happened though. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine then.
That's exciting.
That's fine. Noah Kwiat said, "Did you make the fantasy playoffs?" Noah, I'm in like 7 leagues. I made fantasy playoffs in 3 of them. 1 ESPN league out of 4. 1 Flea Flicker. It's like a Reddit based league. I made that. And then the Scott Fish Bowl, my team is actually still alive in. So made playoffs in a few here. All the leagues where I didn't make the playoffs, I'm pretty sure my Kyle Pitts draft rate for the leagues where I didn't make the playoffs was 100%. I'm not joking. I'm pretty sure every league I missed the playoffs, it was because of him. And every league I made it, I didn't have Kyle Pitts. So, you know, is what it is.
When did you take him? You took him
in my most important league, I took him in the 3rd. I think
that's not terrible.
No, I think that's roughly where I took him in other leagues too. It was just this league, it was early 3rd. I think other leagues it was like later 3rd. So whatever.
I made all of mine. I made playoffs in all of mine. Even I thought that I wasn't going to make Scott Fish Bowl just because I ended up I auto drafted after the 3rd pick. I didn't realize that they switched to a shorter time, and I missed half my picks. So I thought that I was not going to make the playoffs, but then all the injuries ended up like leveling out midway through the season.
Yeah, Scott Fish Bowl actually got saved. So for those of you unaware, Scott Fish Bowl is sort of a unique league. It's a bunch of sub leagues of 12 teams each, but the goal is for it to narrow down from like 3,000 teams that are all competing against each other. And this year's settings, it's super flex, so you can have 2 quarterbacks. My team is very much carried by my quarterbacks, which is Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Those are my first 2 picks. So that worked out well. And then I got saved from taking Kyle Pitts because it's tight end premium as well, where they give extra points to the tight ends because they know how shit that position is. And I was going to take Kyle Pitts in the 3rd round, and he wasn't there. I think I took Saquon Barkley. So that's gone a lot better. But my receivers this late in the season, I'm out here starting Kendall Hinton, Nelson Aguilar, Ben Skoranek. It is rough. But look, the guys carrying me are okay. Albert coming in with pick 3 half PPR. Chris Olave, Christian Watson, Christian Kirk, Juju. All right, we got 3 Chris's for all intents and purposes, and Juju. I'm gonna say you keep. Yeah. So it's funny. Watson was the one guy I eliminated last question. Watson's the one guy I'm gonna lock in. Watson's the one I'm locking in for now. And then I'm going to look at just the numbers of a couple of these guys and their matchups. So
I just need to figure out, who did the Jags play this week? Okay, I think I'm going to go Olave and Watson.
Olave, I think he needs 3 half PPR, so we're only eliminating 1 guy here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree with Olave.
Probably going to be my guy that I'm going to eliminate.
Yeah, I'm with you on Olave and Watson. They got to be in there. And then Juju.
I think Juju's who I say go.
Texans pass defense is so awkwardly not bad that I'm like confused. Yeah, I think I'm dumping Juju as well. Give me Christian Kirk. Give me the first three. We are removing Juju from the picture, and I feel good about that. I think that works. Jacob says, keep or fire Matt Patricia. Jacob, I want to not only fire Matt Patricia in an occupational sense, I want to fire Matt Patricia out of a cannon and into the Atlantic Ocean. Hopefully, I'm hoping he can swim. I do not want to kill the man, but I need this man as far away from really any football team, unless it's like the Jets, because if they want to hire him, awesome. I'm all for that. But any team that I'm rooting for or enjoy, this man needs to be gone because I can't do it anymore. Maddie, I'm assuming you're on board. You're not a Patriots fan, but you know this man's got to go.
I don't like to root for anyone to lose their job, but Matt Patricia is not doing his job.
No.
I'll say that. No, and not even not well, just not doing his job. I think somebody else is kind of taking over most of that.
I think it was Vance Joseph who was saying like he calls plays like what a defensive coordinator would call if he was on offense. And I'm like, yeah, we don't throw the ball further than 10 yards down the field. It's miserable. Noah says, when do you think OBJ will sign? Brother, it feels like we are entering year 7 of wondering when OBJ is going to sign, when in reality it's been what, like 3-4 weeks.
We're so over it.
I don't know, man. We're heading into week 15, right? He said he's basically signing to make a playoff push. I would assume week like 17 is the deadline because then he has at least week 17 and 18 to like learn to play, his acclimate, and then maybe play in a divisional round game for whatever team he's on. I'm assuming that's the deadline. So I'll call it within the next 2 weeks, but to be honest, I don't know why he didn't sign in the last 2 weeks. So who knows at this point?
And I feel like at this point, organizations should be fed up. Like, make a decision. Put the pressure on him.
I feel like these organizations are coddling him though too. I feel like they're not really giving him like Odell has all the power here. Again, it's just the nature of having a free agent in the middle now reaching the end of a season who is a legitimately still a really good player despite the injuries. Normally, the only free agents available at this time are guys like T.Y. Hilton that the Cowboys just scooped up. And you're just like, okay, depth piece. Hopefully we can tap into some of the electric play that you've shown in the past. But in reality, you're washed. So I don't know. Odell has too much power here. I need him to just sign somewhere. I don't care where. Kai says, who's winning the NFC South? So this abomination of a division is led by the Buccaneers still with, I believe, the Falcons and Panthers, both a game back. Panthers weirdly playing some decent football lately, which is concerning just in a lot of ways, in my opinion. Even the Saints are only 2 games out of first place at 4-9. I feel like, I think I said on the podcast that the Falcons are going to win this division.
Falcons.
And I'm just going to stick by that. I do think, the Buccaneers have sort of they're just grandfathered in to assuming they're going to win the division because they still have the best roster, the best quarterback by far, even in a down year in this division. But Falcons, I'm going to just attach my hopes to Desmond Ridder and hope that he can show us something and, win the Falcons a few games here down the stretch. I mean, what's their upcoming schedule like? They've got the Saints in a winnable game this week. The Ravens could be tough. I mean, Ravens will be relatively tough either way, but Lamar could be back for that game. Cardinals is winnable, and then you're at home versus the Bucs to close out the season. They just have to play well. Like the schedule is not a limiting factor to them winning the division. Like there's opportunity there. So I'm going to go with Atlanta.
I'm going with Atlanta too. I think the Bucs are going to continue to fall apart.
They very well might. They're old and slow.
Especially, it's just going to take one hit on Brady, and you're already seeing he's not completing throws because he's scared to get hit. It's going to take one time, and he's going to be down.
Yeah. Jack says, who do you think is the most likely Super Bowl matchup / champion? So, Eagles. Yeah, I think we're both on the same page with the Eagles being in it and probably winning the whole thing. I'm not off the Chiefs by any means, and I feel like they might still be the most likely. man, these Bengals are getting hot at the right
The
time,
Bengals are getting hot right now,
aren't they? And
it's
it would be so perfect for them to make back-to-back Super Bowls when they made it last year with nobody expecting them, especially preseason, to do anything. And then this year, somehow, after making the Super Bowl, still nobody's picking them or expecting them to get back. At least maybe this past week or so is starting to turn those heads. But before this, they were off the radar again. And that doesn't normally happen for a team that makes a Super Bowl appearance. So I think they're probably feeding off that too. I'm going Eagles-Bengals. Screw it. Eagles-Bengals Super Bowl.
I kind of like that. My original thought was Chiefs, Eagles. But you're right. They are getting hot. And to be honest, we kind of talked about this on the podcast. The whole quarterback situation with the Bills and the Chiefs are kind of the same. It's kind of sinking them in my rankings. I kind of ranked Burrow ahead of them just because of that. So I like that. I think I'm going to go with you. We'll go Bengals, Eagles, but Eagles will win.
Yeah, I agree. Jacob says, who do you think is going to win MVP and those other stuff that players win? All right, so we can run down a couple of awards. So MVP right now, I think it's Jalen Hurts, and I think it's pretty clear if the season were to end today. But this is a moving target. I mean, it feels like it changes every week who he thinks winning MVP. If Jalen Hurts goes out and has like one touchdown and Mahomes, tosses 4 and wins them the game, he's probably going to take the lead again. But I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts for MVP. Maddie, you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Jalen Hurts should be MVP no matter what.
And then let's see, just offensive player of the year. We can run through them quick. What do we got? Offensive player of the year, Justin Jefferson, I feel like. Other contenders are Tyreek Hill, Josh Jacobs, but I feel like J-Jet's got that kind of in the bag. So Scorch here says, hey guys, just got in the stream. Who do you guys have tonight? I got the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks win the game.
How much?
How much do they win by? 4. I'll give you a score prediction. I'll give you 27-23 Seahawks.
Ooh, that's what I was trying to get you guys, his score prediction. I'm actually going 49ers. The Seahawks are having issues stopping the run game, and I think that they're just going to get ran through all night.
Yeah. I will say
had a better choice of words.
My one statistical prediction tonight, I think George Kittle has a nice game. He tends to do a little better when Deebo Samuel's out of the lineup. He just had 5 targets in a game with Brock Purdy. His past few games before that wasn't really even reaching that. It's like you look at it, it's like 2, 3. There was like a 6 mixed in. But I think with how bad the Seahawks are against the tight end and Deebo Samuel being out, it lines up for George Kittle to have a decent little night. I think he's got it at least like 50 plus receiving yards, maybe a touchdown thrown in there. Noah says, is Tua overrated?
I don't think so.
Overrated questions are always interesting to me because it's like you have to determine what the national perception definitely is first and then decide if it's accurate. So I think the Tua and Herbert debate got brought back down to earth a little bit. We talked about that on the podcast, how people kind of realize Herbert's still the better quarterback. Tua's just in a better situation. Is Tua overrated? If you have him as a top 5 quarterback in the league, then yes. If you view him as a top 10 guy who is just not going to lose you games, but is still pretty good, accurate, one of the better quarterbacks, then no, he's not overrated. But I don't know. I don't really know where he falls right now in like national perception.
Right now, I would have him ranked above both Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. So, if you were to disagree with that, then you might think he's overrated. But no, I think Tua's like QB like 8 to 10, somewhere like that. If I had to rank him, I assume he falls somewhere in that range. What do you think about the Jets and moving Zach Wilson at QB2? Yeah, so Zach Wilson is going to be active for the first time in a couple weeks this week. Kind of a little promotion for him. I don't know what to think of it because I still think Joe Flacco is better than Zach Wilson. So it is not necessarily this is the best move for our team type of thing. But I think the Jets may just want to kind of build his confidence back up a little bit. As much as we've talked about them wanting to move on from Zach Wilson or that thinking that they should move on from Zach Wilson, we don't know what they want to do yet. They may be trying to salvage this, see what they've got in him. Should Mike White have to go out with an injury? I mean, he was getting bodied all of last game. So maybe they're like, look, we still think Zach has potential. We want to see what he's got. And all it says to me is that they haven't written him off completely yet.
For me, I just feel like Saul is sick of watching him pout, and it's a distraction. So he's just like, whatever, QB2. But they know that they're not going to turn to him unless shit hits the fan.
Yeah, it is an interesting move just because the Jets are very, very much in playoff contention right now. So, you got to think that it's not just a pity move, and they actually think he's a better backup quarterback. We'll see. Daytime Frank says Brandon Graham for comeback player of the year. Honestly, not a player I had considered for that award. Maddie, what do you think?
I hadn't considered. I just think that there's a couple of, I feel like Saquon is all the way up there, and I also kind of feel like Geno. I still feel like they rank above.
Saquon, Geno, even Christian McCaffrey. I think those are the three obvious ones. I mean, is this because they lean towards skill players for a lot of awards? Probably part of it. But I do think it's going to ultimately go to one of them. I don't think Brandon Graham is going to swipe that away from them. Thoughts on Zach Taylor with the way he handled Boyd and Higgins? Okay. So the T. Higgins thing was a hot topic, especially in fantasy football circles. He had a hamstring injury. He practiced, I believe, fully to end the week, was not on the injury report, supposedly tweaked something in pregame, and Zach Taylor didn't say anything, put him out there for the first snap, and then he did not return. As much as I've made jokes about this situation, I don't think Zach Taylor necessarily did anything wrong because T. Higgins tweaked something pregame, right? If that's the truth, obviously this is the assumption. If that's the truth, what is he going to do? Run to a reporter or somebody and be like, hey guys, T's, not good. It's a minor competitive advantage to not tell someone if your guy tweaks something an hour before game time. It just is. And why go out of your way to reveal that to anybody? It sucks for fantasy owners. It's awful. We run across this once every couple years or so that we get bamboozled by this kind of situation. But Zach Taylor, I don't really hold anything against him for what he did.
Yeah, it is a business. So some people think, well, it was so that he could get the start and it was going down that route, which you just described, but also just putting yourself into the situation. He's obviously your number one guy, right? If you're not sure how bad the injury is, if it was tweaked during warm up, why don't you want to just give him one route just to see like, hey, can he go full speed on it or can he work through it? And if he comes back and says, no, I can't, then I think there's a little bit of that going on as well. Just let's try it out. If it doesn't work out, we'll go to game plan B.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else he could have really done there. I mean, fantasy football players, I promise Zach Taylor is not out to get you. He's got other things to worry about. So
yeah.
Let's see. Jacob says, why Geno getting talked about comeback player of the year? So why is Geno in the discussion for comeback player of the year? I mean, I think it's pretty simple. He's been a guy that we would not have been surprised to be out of the league for basically the last decade or so. He was a backup who the only starter action we saw from him was on the Jets, what feels like a lifetime ago. It didn't go well. And he's playing like a top 10 quarterback and has been all season long. He's faltered a little bit here lately. That's why I hope I see something good out of him tonight. But in general, I mean, this is way beyond what anyone expected from Geno Smith this year. This is like universes above.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So Kai says, what's your game of the week this week? Let me pull up the games for you, Kai. That's a good question. Bills Dolphins is interesting, but with the weather, I'm starting to be a little less excited about it because I don't know if we're going to get a true representation of which of these teams is stronger at this point. It might just be a little messy. Go down the list here. Chargers Titans is okay. Commanders Giants. My game of the week. I forgot about that. I mentioned that like 2 weeks ago.
Divisional game. Yeah.
Commanders Giants. There's a reason they flexed it into prime time. I think it's going to be a fun one because these teams are, they might not be the best teams in the NFL right now, but this is going to be a scrappy game between division rivals who know that more than likely only one of them's getting in the playoffs. So it should be a good one.
Yeah, and then my second one will be Bills Dolphins.
Yeah, Bills Dolphins will be fun either way. I hope the weather is not so egregious that it ruins it, a la Bills Patriots from years ago, or what was it, 49ers Bears to open the year in the rain. It was just like we don't know. It was
a slip and slide.
We don't know who's better. This is just who's handling a pool better on the field. Like that doesn't tell you. So
I know that fantasy people hate it, but I sneaky kind of like it. It just makes it fun,
Oh, it's fun. If you have
every
no
other
fantasy
sport
stake in it.
Yeah.
You have no fantasy stake in that. It's absolutely fun to watch. Jason says, does Seattle go out and draft a QB or stick with Geno after this season?
That's a good question.
I feel like they stick with Geno. Geno's 30. Geno's 32. He's playing well. The Seahawks just had a really, really good draft to bolster a defense pretty quickly. And now they're going to have a relatively high draft pick from the Broncos. Probably is going to be like a top 5 pick. And I don't see a need to spend that on a quarterback. I mean, maybe they'll see differently, but I feel like you roll with age 32 Geno. You hope you can get, 2-3 years of good play out of him. And then, you go from there. But it is a good question because
they could draft to be able to stash on the bench also.
Right.
That to develop a player.
If you were to do that and get somehow, I don't think they'll get the number 1 pick, so it probably won't be Bryce Young. But if you're getting like a CJ Stroud or a Will Levis or whatever it is, it's an interesting thought because when is the next time the Seahawks are going to have a pick this high if they're going to be fielding a good team for the next few years, So do you spend the pick to improve that team right now? Or do you say, hey, we weren't really supposed to have this pick anyway. Let's spend it on a quarterback because then if Geno does go down and we have a guy for the future, I don't know. It's a good question. I feel like they won't draft one, but I don't think it's a terrible idea if they did.
Yeah. You look at what's going on with the 49ers right now. They took the last guy and it's worked out for them.
Right. Exactly. Is it risky to play Walker tonight from a fantasy perspective? How do you think he will perform?
What are your other options?
Yeah, it's absolutely risky. Scorch, I would ask you who else you have because you got Kenneth Walker, first game off injury against the number 1 run defense in the league. It's pretty much a worst case scenario. The only thing you have going for you with Kenneth Walker is he is supposedly fully healthy now, and he's going to get the goal line looks, right? So that he's going to get the touchdown equity if that opportunity arises. But that's what he is. I feel like he's a completely touchdown dependent player this week. It's too tough of a matchup. Understand if you have to start him, but ideally you wouldn't have to start.
Yeah.
From previous question, could you see the Lions drafting a quarterback?
They like Goff right now.
Yeah.
So
he's
playing okay.
A couple weeks ago, I might have had a different answer, but we talked about it on the podcast. Ian Rappaport said the Lions don't view Jared Goff as a bridge quarterback. And quarterback.
They have other needs also.
Yeah.
You have an offensive line that's playing lights out. I mean, their offensive line is towards the top in the league of what they're doing. They're giving him protection and he's doing well with that. And so for me, I feel like you address the part of your team that's not doing well, which is the defense in some aspects. It's like hit or miss. And I know that they went out and they have your big guys like Hutchinson, things like that, but I don't know. Well, they just have higher needs than quarterback.
Yeah, you're looking at a similar draft pick situation that the Seahawks have. So the Lions have the Rams pick, which is why they have still a high pick despite having a good record. The difference to me between the two situations and why I would expect the Lions to be less likely to draft a quarterback is Jared Goff's only 28 years old and has been at least steady throughout his career. He's never been awful. He's always been solid. Geno, you have the risk of, is this season somehow like a lightning in the bottle type thing? And even if it's not, and he can do this for the next couple of years, he's 32. Like that is when quarterbacks start to age out, right? So you have that concern in the back of your mind, even though I do think the way he plays, he can perform until age 34, 35. The Lions don't have a need to draft a quarterback. Their team is up and coming. Go get you more pieces to compete with Jared Goff at the helm. I'm looking to start Judy or Kirk over Kenneth Walker this week. Might be for the better, especially without Cortland. I know. I think I'd bench Kenneth Walker and work on making this decision as the week goes along. Judy, to me, is the obvious play if Russell Wilson is active, but he's got the concussion that I haven't seen anything lately on, but I don't believe he's been cleared from just yet. Kirk had a disappointing week this past week, but even I feel like I trust him more than I trust Kenneth Walker against this run defense.
Yeah, for sure.
So if Brett Rippon's playing, I'd be worried about starting Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I think I'm going with Kirk. I know that you're nervous about the defense, though. Dallas defense. Is that what's holding you back?
Probably, and the fact that Zay Jones has become apparently their wide receiver one. So who knows? And Evan Engram just had like the game of his life a couple weeks ago. So whatever. Noah says, what will you guys do to rebuild the Jets? No, I don't think the Jets need rebuilding.
I don't think so either.
They need some retooling. Like they just need to add some pieces. But the Jets have one of the better defenses in the league. Their offense has incredibly young talent with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, who that's the most annoying injury of the season to me by far.
It's so annoying.
The kid was having a great year. I mean, even as a Patriots fan, you love to see a guy performing like that so early in his career and just goes down. So, you hope he comes back full strength next year. But no, they don't need to rebuild. They just need to add a couple more pieces, and they'll be very much in contention.
Bran has been on this live talking about how he feels like Jimmy G could be in New York, though. So if that happens,
I don't think it's impossible still. I would love to just
possibly
see
an upgrade at QB.
I would love to see them stick with good old White Mike, but
oh really?
I would love to see that. I hope Mike White is good enough to hold down the job for a while, but he's fun to root for. But ultimately, these guys that come in as backups and perform for a little bit, it's tough to know whether it's sustainable or not. So we'll see. We'll see. But we've been live for half an hour. Man, that flew by. We've got about 12 minutes or so until kickoff, or at least until coverage of the game starts. So good luck in fantasy football this week, guys. I know there's some games on Saturday to look forward to. Thank you for joining us here on this little pregame show. Hopefully it entertained you as well, if not more than, the actual Amazon Thursday Night Football pre-show or anything else you could watch. Maddie, you got anything to say before we duck out of here?
Sorry, I was about to sneeze. I'm like a little bit sick right now, so I'm trying to keep it all together. I'm good. Good luck to everybody and playoffs and all the good stuff.
All right. Yes. Fantasy playoffs. This is the first week of the playoffs for most leagues. So good luck, everybody. The next time you will hear from us will be on Tuesday when our next episode of Off the Bench drops. We'll be reacting to this game and many others. But until then, I'm Brandon Carney for Madi Kroll. We will see you next time.